And welcome back to Sports on Tap, live from Z's Cream and Bean in Hinckley, Ohio, 2706 Boston Road. And it's finally calmed down here a little bit.
It has.
Sean still doesn't have his chocolate milkshake, which I'm a little surprised right now.
We're almost 2 segments in, and I got to tell you right now, I'm jonesing because I see them and they're fantastic, and I need one.
Yeah, me too. But it's a crazy show today. We have all kinds of guests coming on, but right now, Jake Linkous from CLESportsTalk.com joins us. He writes for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And, Jake, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
So, Jake, the Cavs were victorious versus Toronto in 6 games. They ended up losing in Toronto, the 2 games. They were up 2-0. Then it was tied at 2. Then the Cavs kind of took care of business. What were your thoughts on the Cavs and Toronto series real quick before we preview Golden State?
Well, they won the first 2 games, and I, just like pretty much everyone else, thought maybe, they'd get the sweep, go into the finals 12-0, but they just, I don't know how well they'll play in the finals, but they have to find out what they need to do to win on the road consistently. But overall, I think that they fine-tune their game going into the round that means the most, the finals.
Yeah, and with the Cavs now looking toward Golden State, you have all kinds of different scenarios. The revenge factors everybody wants to say. And they interviewed LeBron. He said, we're not really looking for revenge. This is a completely different team. What are your thoughts on, is this team that much different than last year?
Are you speaking about the Warriors or the Cavaliers?
No, the Cavaliers, sorry.
Yeah, it's totally different. I think it's a much more fine-tuned team. I feel like you can go into every game besides like Sasha Khan, and you can get a contribution from anybody on the team, as opposed to last year when you'd go into a game and you'd be like, you'd have Mike Miller, you'd have James Jones, you'd have Shawn Marion, just players that really can't come off the bench and give you quality minutes, but they replaced Marion with Jefferson, so they just have a lot of pieces that they can bring off the bench if anybody were to get hurt or if anybody were to get tired. I just feel like they have a much more complete team from the top to the bottom, even if last year's team was healthy.
And we're with Jake Linkous, writer for CLESportsTalk.com, going into his junior year at Walsh University. Hey, Jake, this is Ed here. Just wanted to ask, what were your thoughts about the Warriors in their conference finals? The resiliency that they showed coming back from a 3-1 deficit to eventually overtake and win the Western Conference over Oklahoma City.
Well, I thought that they had a pretty poor series. Draymond Green didn't have a very good start to the series, but I figured that if they won Game 6, that there would be no way that they would lose Game 7, and obviously they didn't. I just feel like Oklahoma City needed a third option, and that Serge Ibaka isn't necessarily the best third option in the league, and that they try to put too much on Dion Waiters, and we all of us know that Dion Waiters can't do it. So I feel like they just really didn't stand it. The Thunder didn't really stand a chance once Game 6 was over. Even with how bad Golden State plays, they can just get right back into it because the Thunder only have so much firepower. And I didn't really feel like they utilized Enes Kanter as much as they could have.
Hey, Jake, this is Sean. Just kind of paint a picture of how much of a game plan essentially would Tyronn Lue pull from that Oklahoma City series, seeing how they kind of really did push Golden State to the brink. I mean, at one point they were up 3-1, but for a bad fourth quarter and a closeout game, we'd be talking about the Thunder as opposed to the Warriors. So is there anything we can glean from that series to kind of at least help the coaching staff understand how to maybe beat this Warriors team that everyone feels is basically unbeatable?
Well, I feel like the biggest thing to beat the Warriors, not necessarily to worry about the three-point shot, even though that's their best weapon, but just to make sure that you can weather a storm if they come at you. Because I feel like the Thunder, they got into their own heads. The Warriors didn't necessarily get in their heads. It was more the Thunder got into their own heads. So I feel like Coach Lue is a little bit better than Coach Platt was in terms of collecting the team. Because how loud it was in Toronto. Toronto was probably the loudest they played anywhere at all this whole season. And they were able to close it out in Toronto in Game 6. So I feel like the staying calm and collected at home and on the road would be the biggest game plan that they can do, because the Thunder had the talent necessarily to beat Golden State, but I just didn't feel like they had a good enough mental game to close out the series, even though they were up 3-1.
You know, looking at the Cavs against the Golden State Warriors, what are some matchups that that you would really look at in this series that you're interested to watch? You know, Steph Curry obviously is one you want to watch. We don't know if he's going to be matched up with Kyrie Irving, but what are some matchups between the two teams that you're going to look for that might be a game changer?
Well, I'm more looking forward to the Kevin Love-Draymond Green matchup to see how well Kevin Love can respond on defense to Draymond. Considering Draymond kind of tailed off there in the conference finals, and I feel like in that last game he sort of got his mojo back. But I'd like to see how well he'll do on the pick and roll against Draymond and how well he'll be able to defend him. And then the next matchup I'm looking forward to is the sixth man. I don't know who the Cavs sixth man will be. It might be Richard Jefferson. It might be Channing Frye. But I want to see how well that person or that player match up against Andre Iguodala if he comes off the bench, because Game 7 they started Iguodala and they benched Harrison Barnes. So it really comes down to whether it's Barnes or Iguodala, and then how well our sixth man steps up, because last year our sixth man on their team was the Finals MVP.
Yeah, very true. And I think that the strategy last year was really, we'll let one of those guys beat us, and unfortunately that's exactly what happened. Do you see Tyronn Lue employing that same strategy this year?
What strategy?
Last year they threw a lot of double teams at Klay Thompson and Steph Curry in the front court or in the forecourt, and they were leaving. It seemed like they left Andre Iguodala and Harrison Barnes and the supporting caps. It seemed to me that they left them open, and Mozgov, as well as he played offensively, just wasn't able to chase back to the three-point line. And it almost seemed to me like last year they were willing to let those guys beat them, and unfortunately that's exactly what happened. Is that something that you anticipate seeing again this year?
I'm not entirely sure, because when the Thunder played against the Warriors, Andre Roberson, the shooting guard on the Thunder, he shot a very poor percentage from three, and the Warriors are still out there defending them. So I feel like the Warriors might do it to us, but I'm not sure if the Cavs will do that. I mean, they got burnt by him last year, and he's just, they're at the professional level. I mean, if you're going to leave somebody like Iguodala open, I mean, you can leave Tristan Thompson wide open at the three-point line, but you can't be leaving players like Barbosa or just like a role player. You have to treat them like they're a starter, though. How well that team plays.
And Jake, let's one quick question. I know we're talking about the Warriors and the Cavs. In your opinion, who has the most pressure on them to win this series? Because if you look at Golden State's season, it's been the magical season, 73 regular season wins. And is it all for naught? Or is the pressure mounting on them to finish this off with a title more so than the LeBron James "I'm coming home," the promise he made to Northeast Ohio? Do you get any sense as to who is feeling the most pressure? Is it, or who has the most to lose, essentially, if they were not to, win this title this year?
I think it's the Warriors, because 23-9 don't mean a thing without the ring. Okay. So I just feel like they came back from 3-1, and now they get to play the Cavaliers, and now they get to really show that they're the better team. But if they lose, then they lose the finals this year. Everybody has to call into question whether or not last year really, it counted, but did it really count? Because if you can't beat this team, then did you really beat the real Cavaliers last year? I feel like there is a little bit of pressure on the Cavs, but it's nowhere near as much as it is, especially with Golden State having to play at home, and they've struggled a little bit at home lately as they lost to the Thunder last year. So they have a lot of pressure to at least almost just win both games at home and try to go back to Cleveland up 2-0. So I feel like the Cavs play calm and collected, and they could possibly see the Golden State Warriors self-destruct with how much pressure they have on them and how much they've been playing, especially considering they went for the record. It seemed like Curry, not so Thompson, but Curry was getting a little tired there in the series against the Thunder.
And you bring up a good point there. I mean, the Warriors have played. They have expended a lot more energy in the playoffs than the Cavaliers have, and that was a big factor in last year's finals. Even though the fact that the Cavs swept their way into the finals, they still, they're obviously very limited as far as their personnel is concerned. This year, there is no such concern from either a game standpoint or from a health standpoint. We did see LeBron James obviously put up historic numbers last year in the finals. Is that type of effort going to be necessary for them to be able to win this series there?
I don't necessarily think it is. I mean, he could do it again if he could do it any year he wants to. But with Kyrie and Kevin, as long as if Kevin Love can play the way he has played in the Hawks series, and then in sort of the Raptors series, I know he kind of had a little bit of a forced shooting at the middle of that series. But as long as the big three show up, he shouldn't have to. But if one of the three doesn't show up, then you're going to see a little bit of a ascension, I guess, of LeBron's numbers, because with all three of them playing well, they all just have to put just like about the same amount of numbers up. LeBron may be having sort of more points, but if one of them only has 9 points, then expect LeBron to get not near the numbers he had, but he'll definitely be putting up some triple-double like numbers.
All right. Hey, Jake, one question I have is, Anderson Varejao went over to Golden State. He was the first person in history to play for two finals teams. Is he going to have an impact in this series at all? Is Golden State going to figure out a way to get him in and cause problems for the Cavaliers? Because I've watched a lot of these playoff basketball games, and so far I really haven't seen Anderson play that much. I saw him in Game 6, or was it Game 7 of the Golden State Oklahoma City series, where he took a charge, he made a layup. Kind of the crowd actually was standing and going nuts when he did that. But do you think he'll have any impact in this series at all?
I don't necessarily think so, because he's just too slow at this point. So if we put in Mozgov, he's pretty slow. I think Mozgov's just too big for him, but I don't really see the Cavs playing Mozgov. And then if the Cavs do their small ball lineup with Thompson at the 5, well, it's not necessarily a small ball, but it's smaller than if they would use Mozgov. I just don't see how Varejao would fit in. They could surprise us. I don't know what Steve Kerr has up his sleeve, but I don't really see Varejao playing that many minutes. It wouldn't be an offensive effect that he would put in. It would more be like if Ezeli gets into foul trouble, but then Bogut would also have to get in foul trouble. I just feel like he's too far down the totem pole of their depth for the centers for him to even really get in the game. Because I think in Game 7, when he did take the couple charges that he did, I think they were resting Bogut, and then Ezeli got into foul trouble. So that was the only way he even got in.
Yeah, and I know he definitely looks a little bit slow. And, when the Cavs picked up Channing Frye, I thought at first, he was a little bit slow, but that was just because it was his first game trying to pick up the offense. But now I think he could be a real difference maker for the Cavs. What do you think in this series, him getting matched up maybe on a center or a power forward like a Draymond Green? Do you think he can have an effect? The Cavs obviously are looking to probably get him involved in some shape or form, but we saw him against Toronto score 27 points. Do you think he can have that effect again on Golden State?
I think he can, unless they put Draymond on him, because when LeBron drives the ball, either Frye can go out or he can go in, and if you've got somebody like a center on him, like you said, the center's going to have a little bit of trouble keeping up with them. So you either let LeBron drive in and not help on your teammate who has to defend LeBron, or you stay out on Channing or you help him, and then Channing Frye's wide open. And as you saw, he's shooting about 50% from three, which he's probably the best X factor. I thought for sure it'd be like J.R. Smith, even though he's a starter. But it's been unbelievable what kind of offensive presence. He doesn't even have to touch the ball, like I said. Just have him stay out there, not even get the ball, and have LeBron drive with only one player on him. I honestly didn't think. I've been following Fry since when he played with the Magic, and even with the Suns, but he never really had this kind of an impact because he never really played with anybody that could facilitate the ball. Maybe Steve Nash would be his best facilitator that he played with, but it was towards the end of Nash, and it was when Fry really wasn't playing any minutes. So I feel like this is the real Channing Frye that the NBA hasn't been able to experience. I think he'll definitely have an impact. He might be our sixth man.
Jake, Tim Tedeschi here, and you mentioned how the Big Three is going to have needs to have a huge series, and also on the other side you got Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. Outside of those five players of our Big Three, Steph and Klay, who do you think is going to have the biggest impact on this series? Is it Channing Frye or is it someone else?
I feel like if somehow we get Mozgov in, he could be a dark horse, but I definitely feel like Channing Frye will. It just matters if Channing Frye can get open. But as we saw in the series, he doesn't really, I think it was Game 4, we almost came back against Toronto, and Frye, I think, hit 2 back-to-back threes on possessions, and he was covered he was like draped. I feel like he could definitely be it. And then on the Warriors side, it would have to be somebody that you wouldn't expect. I don't think Iguodala will have as much of an impact. I feel like Barnes might actually show up for once in the playoffs for his career. He just hasn't really ever had a great series, and I feel like they might end up putting him, or he might just have the same effect that Iguodala did, especially if they start Iguodala. I don't feel like he'll have the same effect that he did because he came off the bench for a couple of games last year, Iguodala did. I feel like just starting him right away, the Cavs will have a game plan set for him, but not necessarily have a full game plan set for Barnes. So it'll be interesting to see who Golden State's dark horse will be, but I definitely think it'll be Channing Frye for the Cavs.
Well, I guess it's time for the Magic prediction. Who do you have winning this series, Jake?
Well, last year I think I had Cavs in 6, and I'm staying by it, especially with the format that they have where it's 2-2, 1-1-1. So I think the Cavs will win one in Golden State, win both at home, lose one in Golden State, and then win it in Cleveland. I think it's a Friday, so I can't imagine how Cleveland will go. We might burn down Cleveland if that's what day it is.
I think Game 4 is Friday, actually.
Yeah.
And Game 6 would be Thursday, I believe is what it is.
Thursday?
Yeah, because I think I have to work the next day and I can't get out of it. So
oh no,
that's not going to be a fun time for me if the Cavs win Game 6.
Yeah,
but for the greater good, obviously this is much bigger than one fan.
True that. Well, Jake, thanks for taking time to join us tonight, and we appreciate you taking time to come on and talk Cavs basketball, and hopefully they can bring home a win.
Yes,
for sure. Thanks for having me.
All right, that is Jake Linkous from CLE Sports Talk. He's a junior at Walsh University, and talk a little bit of Cavs with us. Stick with us. We are coming straight ahead. We have the Strongsville Regional Track Champions from the girls' side coming up, and as well as Strongsville baseball coach Doug Sachirchi coming at you live from Z's Cream and Bean, 2706 Boston Road, Hinckley, Ohio, bordering 4 cities, Brunswick, Hinckley, North Royalton, and Strongsville. Coming right back at you.
For the best coverage of Cavs, Indians, and Browns, check out NEOSportsInsiders.com. NEOSportsInsiders.com brings you breaking news, opinions, and video from all things related to your favorite Cleveland sports teams. Like us on Facebook and follow at NEO Sports Insiders on Twitter for live updates from all the games. NEOSportsInsiders.com, bringing you the best in Northeast Ohio sports coverage.
Can't wait for the next Sports on Tap podcast to drop? Then stay connected with us on social media. You can follow us on Twitter at SOT Podcast and like our page at Facebook.com/SOT Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to Sports on Tap on YouTube and iTunes, and email us at sportsontappodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget to check out Josh Jeffy's six-pack of random and our full show archives on neosportsinsiders.com. Sports on Tap is your source for local high school sports talk in Northeast Ohio. Hear from your favorite teams, coaches, and players, and stay up to date with all the high school action no matter the season. Catch Sports on Tap live on Mixlr, or find past shows archived on neosportsinsiders.com, sportsontap.podcast.podomatic.com, and on iTunes and YouTube. Sports on Tap, part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network. Join Sports on Tap for live broadcasts at Z's Cream and Bean on the first Thursday of every month from 7:30 to 9 p.m. Come see the faces behind the voices you hear on the podcast and hear from local athletes and coaches about their teams, seasons, and conferences. Enjoy delicious ice cream and milkshakes and join in on the fun at Z's Cream and Bean, 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley. The Sports on Tap podcast, part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network.
Join Sports on Tap the first Thursday of every month at Z's Cream and Bean, 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley, Ohio, as Sports on Tap talks local Ohio high school sports, Cleveland sports, and national sports topics. It's all happening at Z's Cream and Bean the first Thursday of every month starting at 7:30 p.m. Join us.